What's going on, everybody? I'm Can't Kill Dill, lover of all things morbid, macabre, and horrific. There will be spoilers ahead for Scream 6.
Groovy.
So the movie picks up about a year after the last film. We're in New York now, we're out of Woodsboro. Right off the bat, I mean, in the first 10 minutes of this movie, you know shit is gonna be completely different. That was what they did with this thing. Right away, we knew that this was going to be a different film. They pretty much cemented that in that first opening scene. Speaking of the opening scene, holy shit! I have to say, dude, I didn't really want Samara Weaving to bite it, at least not in the opening. I was hoping that she was going to maybe be a bigger part of the puzzle, but for me, it was all worth it. It was for sure all worth it for Samara to die, because what the fuck? Something I've always wanted in a Scream film was for the killer to be revealed before, the end, for us to know who the killer is. Of course, they did it not in the way I would have expected that to be done, but to have that moment of the killer doing that classic, right before the title card, that classic slasher stab down, and then the title card doesn't pop up. Instead, the killer chills, Ghostface just chills, and then removes his mask, revealing Tony Revolori. That was fucking crazy. I literally gasped in the theater. Jaw agape, just like, what the fuck did they just do? But then from there, quickly I realized, oh, I know what's about to happen. This dude's about to get hunted by another killer. At least I'm pretty sure. That's where my mind went. And I was right. That is what happened. The way they did that was nuts. When he gets to his apartment and his partner, Greg, is already just chopped up meat in the refrigerator, just stacked up nicely for him to find in the fridge. Fucking brutal, dude. And the conversation he has with Ghostface. I mean, to see a Ghostface killer revealed at the beginning and then get cut down by Ghostface, a bigger and badder Ghostface, that's gonna leave a mark. That is probably one of the best openings. That is probably, I don't know. I'm not gonna fucking start throwing around a ranking here, but I would say it's probably one of the best openings of the franchise. I wouldn't say the best. It's one of the best, for sure. But right away, we know this movie's gonna be fucking more brutal, more savage than we've seen. Yes, I mean, that's been kind of a reoccurring thing in the past where we're like, oh, this is going to be more brutal than the last. No, this is. This is. It all the way through. It's the intensity, the brutality. But anyways, the opening, they let you know right away. Holy fuck. Then we get the title card. Once Tony Revolori's character is dispatched, we get the title card. And we get to hear a bit of the soundtrack, a track by Mike Shinoda. He wrote both the main themes for this movie. Demi Lovato performs on the other one, Still Alive. The music in general in this movie is good, both the soundtrack and the actual score. The score they did a much better job with this time around than they did with Scream 5. I just want to make a note of that. It is really good. They paid a lot of homages to Marco Beltrami's score throughout the film. They even actually did from Scream 2. There's like this touching moment sort of where Gail's reminded of Dewey, talking about Dewey, and they play that theme from Scream 2. Dewey's kind of theme that you cannot not recognize, It's a sweet moment. Another thing I want to say is that, in general, the kills throughout the whole film are fucking intense. They are brutal. The bar is raised 100%. It's savage as fuck. That being said, they're not that creative. There's a couple kills in there that are a little different. But at the same time, I know a lot of people, their biggest complaints about Scream films is that the kills aren't creative enough. Again, Ghostface uses a fucking buck knife. You can't get that creative with a buck knife. And also, you don't want to change up his weapon too often. So, it doesn't matter to me. I'm fine with good old stabby stabs. I thought that it was great. There were some interesting kills. But mostly, they focused more on bringing that brutality level up rather than being super creative with the kills. Although some people were stabbed in some pretty fun places, I guess. And Ghostface himself was a mean motherfucker. Ghostface was so so brutal in this movie. I don't think he's ever been, for me, I don't think Ghostface has ever been as angry as he was in like Scream 4. You know, he was always so aggro on the phone there. But he was just a mean motherfucker in this movie. He was so bad, dude. Also, you know, Sidney, obviously there's an absence of Sidney in this movie. And, you know, for me, probably not for everybody, but for me, that absence was kind of felt. That the lack of Sidney's presence was kind of felt throughout this film for me slightly. It doesn't detract from it at all. They handled it really well. You know, Gail talks about how she spoke with Sidney and she's not coming. She's getting Mark and the kids somewhere safe, and they're out of it. And that's fine. That's cool. I like the way that works for me. That works for me. It totally fucking worked. Especially because when it comes to the core four, which is, you know, Chad's kind of like name for the group, they really carried this movie. Now, I know a lot of people, including me, by the time Scream 5 ended last year, I didn't really feel super connected to all the characters. Well, this time, you know, we took everything we had from them in the last film, and there was a lot of really good character development for these characters in this film. They did a really fucking good job. All four of them were standouts. They were so fucking good. They were all so fucking good. Especially, and I was a big fan of Melissa Barrera from Scream 5. I thought Sam Carpenter was a fucking fantastic character. She got she got shit on a lot, I guess, you know, from a lot of fans didn't really connect with her. But this time around, I think they will. They did so well with her this time. She really felt like she came into that final girl Scream Queen role. I feel like that character was just so well developed and handled this time. She was my standout for the film completely was Melissa Barrera. She takes the cake for me. Obviously I love Jenna Ortega. Everybody fucking loves Jenna Ortega. Yeah. I get it. She's good. But Tara Carpenter, for me, is a step below Sam. Sam Carpenter is the fucking one. She's the one. And they executed her role perfectly. I loved it. I'll talk a little bit more about her later. But yeah, the core four were fucking awesome. The new characters, they were okay. That's one of my things about this movie is that, you know, oftentimes with the Scream franchise, the new characters you bring in are generally really, really likable. And it is what it is. They weren't that great. I didn't connect to them that well. But when it comes to the legacy characters, speaking, of course, of Gale Weathers and Kirby Reed, I do have to say, I feel like they were just sort of mistreated, underused in a way. I mean, I wasn't angry by any means. Gale, and I fucking love Gale Weathers, but she almost didn't even need to be in this movie, and it bothers the fuck out of me that her presence was so... It was good. When she was there, it was fucking good, but they almost underused her. She wasn't used enough. It was like, either use her to her full extent or just keep her out of the film, because it almost felt like they just tacked her on, and that's almost disrespectful. I'm sure that wasn't their intention, but that's just like what I got from it. Gale's been doing this since 1996, and some of the decisions she made were kind of poor. For one thing, she doesn't get a lot of screen time. She feels almost like she went backwards in character development. You know, by the end of Scream 5, she really had this breakthrough. She had, you know, Dewey died, and she grew a lot as a person. She kind of, you know, took one step forward and two steps back for this film. You know, she did write a book about it all. She went back to her old Gale ways, which, okay, I mean, I guess it's really in her DNA, fine, I suppose. But one thing I'm not okay with is that in her, like, scene, her big Ghostface scene, the scene that's teased in the trailer, at one point she ends up in this big-ass closet. It's one room. It's just a fucking walk-in closet. It's massive, but it's Gale, so it makes sense. She's rich. Literally, there's only one way out. It's the fucking closet door. There's only one way out of this fucking room. She has a gun. Ghostface is on the other side of the door. She's safe. She has a fucking fully loaded gun, and this dill hole is on the other side of the door, and there's nothing he can do to get her. All she has to do is stay in that fucking closet and point her fucking gun at the door. If Ghostface comes barging in, unload into his fucking dome. That's all you have to do. That's what Gale Weathers would do, in my opinion. If I wrote that scene, that's what Gale would do. Gale would be chilling in that closet. She would not fucking leave. She would call the cops. She would call for help. Regardless, She's not gonna sit there on the fucking phone, point a gun, and do what she did. This bitch walks out of the closet where she's safe, okay? And then walks into her massive fucking New York apartment where Ghostface can come at her from any fucking angle. There's no walls. It's just a big open plan, like, apartment. Ghostface can come at her from any angle. That didn't feel very Gale to me. That sucked. That left a bad taste in my mouth, but not enough to detract from the movie overall. You know what I mean? It just, that felt a little bit like, I feel like they could have done that a little better. As for Kirby, I loved seeing Kirby. I thought the way they brought her in was awesome. I thought the whole FBI, that she's an FBI agent now, was really, really cool. I love that she took special interest in this because it's Ghostface killings and, you know, she's back. I feel like Hayden Panettiere really fell back into Kirby. You could tell she really loves this character. She really loves this role. She really connects with Kirby as a character. She holds that character really dear to her heart, and that shows. But again, I feel like she could have really been fleshed out. And a lot of this isn't necessarily the writer's fault or Radio Silence or the directors or anything. It's not their fault, and it's not her fault. It's not Hayden Panettiere's fault. It's the fact that it's a movie. It's the name of the game. It's the business. It's the fact that it's a movie, and that's what's at fault here. If it was a series, you know, we'd really be able to flesh out her character more so and see where she's been over these years. But it's a movie. You have a 2-hour runtime. You have to get shit moving, and you don't have time to sit there and do that. But I believe if they were somehow able to make a little bit more time for Kirby, it would have been a little more fruitful. That being said, with the way it ends, I do believe that Kirby would likely return for a Scream 7. But, you know, Kirby was back, and that's what's most important, and she didn't die, and that's what's most important as well. So, you know, I do think that Gale was a little bit mistreated more so than Kirby. Kirby wasn't so mistreated, so much mistreated as she was just maybe underused a bit. While there were a lot of really high intensity moments, the suspense was through the roof in this film. Probably the most suspenseful film since the original. I think I can comfortably say that 100%. So suspenseful. A lot of really great sequences. But one thing I was going in, and this is probably my own fault, I was going in expecting the best chase scene. I was going in expecting to be blown away by chase scenes. I wanted something that was going to just totally poop on Gale's chase scene from Scream 2. That doesn't happen. Nothing even compares to that in this film. So that was a little bit of a letdown, but that was more myself. That's on me. Not saying the movie let me down at all, but just I was really expecting some incredible chase sequences, and you know, we don't really get it. We got a lot of amazing sequences, just not any like really intense chase scenes, like ones that really leave you breathless. There were scenes that left you breathless, and the suspense was through the roof, but I was just missing that really crazy chase scene. I wanted a really standout chase scene sequence, and I didn't really feel like we got that. There were a couple little things throughout that kind of bugged me a little bit that I have to at least make a mention of. Like, I have to mention this one thing in particular. The sequence where they get on the subway, and then Mindy is left separated from Chad and everybody else. It's just her and Ethan. They have to wait for the next train or whatever. And when Chad is like worried, obviously, for his sister, he texts her like, hey, did you get on the next train? And her message doesn't go through, so he doesn't get a text from her, right? At first he's worried. He's like, oh, she still hasn't gone back to me. But then, like, by the time they get off the subway and they're walking to, you know, meet up with Gale or whatever, they all of a sudden, like, he just completely, it was very out of character for Chad. That stuck out to me. He just all of a sudden didn't mention her. He didn't worry about her. Like, it was like, where the fuck is Mindy? And then all of a sudden, like, he's just not, it's not even on his mind at all. Instead, he's more concerned with, like, furthering his relationship or whatever with Tara, which I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed their relationship dynamic, but that was a little weird. That was handled strangely right there. I feel like Chad in reality would be a lot more anxious at that time and not really not really have time for that. I feel like he would be more just completely like tunnel vision to Mindy. But it is what it is. The actual Ghostface stab shrine itself was awesome. Filled to the tits with Easter eggs. Just, it was incredible. It was like a Scream fan's wet dream. It was fantastic. And it really scratched a fucking huge itch for me because something that these films have done ever since Scream 4 is they kind of really just ignore certain parts of the franchise, and it bothers the fuck out of me. You know, and Scream 3 is not even my favorite at all, far from, and we never hear mentioning of Roman Bridger, and that pisses me the fuck off, honestly. Like, it never gets talked about. The closest they ever came to mentioning it was in Scream 4 when Gail was like trying to convince Dewey to let her help solve the crimes because she's done this 3 times before. And that's like the closest thing. They mentioned that it's happened 3 times before, but you never hear anything about the killers. They went, and same thing with 5. Same thing with 5. They like danced around it like, oh, this is all because of Billy. What the fuck? What about Roman though? I mean, like, give credit where credit is due. Still, it's canon, motherfucker, okay? Well, thankfully, this movie, they fucking paid homage to every single Ghostface that came before. There were so many cool little Easter eggs. There was so much like paraphernalia from the past films. That whole shrine was excellent. It was so cool. On to the third act, you know, they really, for a second there, and I was thinking they almost had me, because I was almost considering it up right before Detective Bailey said anything, or called and tried to like throw the fucking shroud over their eyes. I was starting to think, dude, what if fucking Kirby? What if Kirby's the killer? And then Detective Bailey called and fucking tried to pull that whole shit, and I fucking was like, no way is Kirby the killer. And I found myself like on the edge of my seat in this fucking theater. Like, I swear to God, if Kirby's the killer, I will fucking riot. They almost had me. I almost thought that shit was gonna happen, and I was not gonna stand for that shit, okay? Thankfully, that wasn't the case. Unfortunately, the killer was a little bit, it was a little bit obvious. There were only so many options there. I knew that Ethan was. I knew that Mindy was right. Mindy had it pegged. I fucking knew it. I just knew that he had to have a partner, for sure. I knew he had to have a partner because the way the subway scene worked out. I figured he had a partner, but I knew that Ethan was one of the killers. There was a minute there when I was for sure convinced it was Detective Bailey. And then some things happened where I just sort of was like, oh, maybe not. I don't know. And then, sure enough, it's Detective Bailey. It's Detective Bailey. It's Ethan, who turns out is his son. And then Quinn, who didn't really die. They pulled a Roman Bridger on us and faked the death, right? That was cool. That was excellent. I was really confused, though. And then we find out it's Richie's family. Fucking duh. Holy shit. This reveal, dude. For one thing, 3 Ghostface killers in one film. Technically 5. I guess 4, because I guess Greg, the accomplice of Tony Revolori's character, he doesn't count. He fucking never killed anybody. The only time he probably wore the Ghostface costume was in his bathroom checking himself out in the mirror. So I'm not going to count Greg. And if you count Greg, that's bullshit. But for sure, 4 killers in one movie, that's crazy. And to have 3 killers there, to see 2 Ghostfaces on screen at the same time as well, outside of a stab sequence, awesome. Loved it. Holy fucking shit. I did love the reveal. I loved the way it was acted. I thought that Quinn was so fucking savage. Ethan was cool. I think, Dermot Mulroney's character, Detective Bailey, it was just so cool. They really sold it for me. It fucking was awesome. Is it my favorite reveal from the franchise? No, it's not. But it was satisfying. It satisfied me. It was awesome. But at the same time, this movie spent so much energy in differentiating itself from the others. It spent so much time breaking free from the same basic formula of the other Scream films, setting itself apart, only to fall back in to that same formula. They kind of dropped the ball there, right? I mean, at least for me, I love this film. I love this movie. It was fucking awesome. It was amazing. But did they not drop the ball there? The killers were demasked, revealed, and they did their monologue, and the heroes won in a really brutal way, but it still didn't break free from the Scream formula that we all know and love. And, I still loved it, but man, I really want to get a movie where a Ghostface escapes at the end. Why can't I get that? What the fuck is going on here? I'm sure a lot of people are angry that Chad survived because he got fucking turned into a hunk of bloody Swiss cheese. He got the shit stabbed out of him by 2 Ghostface at once. It was savage. It was awesome. It was killer. I didn't want him to die. I was like, no, but you know what? It was noble. It's cool, dude. Go ahead. But they pulled a Dewey from Scream 2 and the motherfucker came out in a stretcher at the end. I enjoyed that. I liked it. I'm sure a lot of people are mad about that. I'm really happy the core 4 survived. I'm really glad to see them go on, probably into a Scream 7. I feel like we were really missing a super emotional death in this movie, but I'm really glad Gale didn't die, and I'm really glad that Kirby didn't die either, so I don't know what I wanted. I really wanted an emotional death, but also I didn't want any of these characters to die, so you get what you get. And then finally with the end, we have Sam and Tara, and Sam has her father's mask, has Billy's mask, right? She's staring at it, she gets that look. I really wish that she kept it. I don't know what that would have alluded to, necessarily, but a part of me really wanted her to take it with her. She drops it, and, it was a good moment. It was her kind of, letting go of her father, letting go of Billy, letting go of that, dark legacy. Some sick part of me really wanted her to kind of bring that shit with her. Oh yeah, and there was a post-credit scene. Just a little short one. Inconsequential, it didn't matter really. All in all, I loved this movie. It was a solid sequel. That's the thing about the Scream franchises. There's not really a bad movie. Yeah, there are people that are like, oh, Scream 4 is garbage, Scream 3 is garbage. Shut up. Shut up, dude. Are you kidding me? Have you seen Halloween Resurrection? What the fuck are you talking about garbage, dude? Are you fucking shitting me? Okay, then if you need to go back and you need to watch all of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies and see which films are garbage, okay? Go back and watch all of the Friday the 13th films. Watch all the Halloween films, okay? When it comes to slashers and the quality, Scream is easily the most consistent franchise. We are 6 films in, and the quality of these films are still top tier. Okay? This was a great movie. It was a great addition to the Scream franchise. Were there some problems I had with it? Yes. Do I think that they should have really broken from the mold a bit more, especially when it comes to the finale, the big reveal at the end? Yeah, for sure. But there's always room for that in Scream 7. I'll probably be doing a full ranking at some point. I'm not sure when. But all in all, I love this fucking movie. What did you guys think of it, man? Did you love it? Did it exceed your expectations? It kind of exceeded mine in a lot of ways and fell short in some. But you take some, you win some, you lose some. It was fucking great. I love this movie, guys. If you enjoy my content and you want to see more, don't forget to stab the like button, /subscribe, and gut that bell notification. And we can be best friends. Later.